We're at a bit of an impasse. On one hand, institutional investment is waiting for clearly defined regulations so they feel comfortable enough to invest without restriction. On the other hand, the very people who built the space find the incoming rules very restrictive and limiting. SEC Chair Gary Gensler has threatened many cryptocurrencies, essentially all of the 20,000 non-Bitcoin cryptos, as receiving the dreaded security label, which would give the SEC extreme power to decide the fate of the blockchain. My next guest, Katrina Prokopy, is Chief Legal Officer and Head of Regulatory Affairs at Coinsquare. Let's take a deep dive into the current state of regulations, what the challenges are. Katrina, welcome to the
Hello.
Daily Drop. How are you?
I'm fine. Thanks so much for having me.
It's going to be high level, and you were the perfect person for the job. So let's start right at the beginning for North America. What is the current state of regulations in North America?
So I would answer that by saying I think they're still very much a work in progress. They're evolving and they're going to continue to develop over time. Unlike certain international jurisdictions, North America, so Canada and the US, have not come out of the gate with sort of crypto-specific, bespoke crypto legislation. So they're trying to figure out which traditional rule sets apply. I think in the US, it's still very much a live debate about who has jurisdiction in the area. Where is the regulatory perimeter and how is it going to be defined? In the US, unlike in Canada, you have jurisdiction over securities overseen by the SEC and jurisdiction over derivatives overseen by the CFTC. So depending on the classification of the asset, that regulator has jurisdiction. And I think it's still an open question in the US where that's going to land. Certainly crypto derivatives would fall under the jurisdiction of the CFTC, and spot crypto, which is the preliminary, like most of the exchanges that we see, the big global exchanges are spot crypto exchanges. Currently, that falls outside the regulatory perimeter of the CFTC. And unless you're trading a security, as you just sort of described through Chair Gensler's statements, then you're not in the perimeter of the SEC.
Oh, so let me just jump in, right? Because this is it. I mean, we could talk for half an hour, going back and forth, CFTC versus the SEC, and they seem to have some other regulators in there as well. But what is the effect here, right? Because am I correct where I assume that it's institutional investment is waiting for all this to play out, so those concrete regulations before they feel comfortable to invest in the space?
Yeah, I think that's true. So you asked sort of what's the state of play in North America? It isn't very much in flux in the US. In Canada, it's a different story in that we don't have jurisdiction split between securities regulators and regulators of derivatives, the SEC and CFTC. We've got a single unified securities regulator for both asset classes. And our securities regulator in Canada came out a couple of years ago stating the basis of jurisdiction over activity in crypto assets. So crypto asset trading platforms that are facilitating these transactions are required to be registered as securities dealers. And the regulators in Canada have also come out with guidance on what that regulatory framework looks like. And it's the traditional rule sets tailored a bit for the crypto environment. So Canada has a lot clearer a view on the regulatory framework for crypto assets than in the US at this time. But again, it's evolving. It's still clunky in Canada as well. A lot of the traditional rules for securities dealers don't fit nicely in the crypto space, and the regulators use various exemptive relief powers in order to tailor those rules. So that's kind of where we're at in Canada. But you're right, institutional investors are looking for clarity. Frankly, industry is also looking for clarity, and it's not where it needs to be efficient, an efficient regulatory environment yet.
Yeah, and I mean, I think this is the real issue, right? And I think institutional investment, I mean, I think everybody sees the benefits, everybody sees the potential, but until we have like concrete rules, I mean, they could say anything, so you don't really know. Look, we're going to go to break. We're going to get really into it. Like, I think sometimes people feel I don't know, a bit put off that they have to understand all these rules. They want to get to the fun part, but the reality is these rules are the foundation of the entire space. We've got Katrina Prokopy here on the Daily Drop.
Thank you.